Okay, my name is Caroline King, and I've been living here in Prague for about a year. And the reason for that is because we traveled around, and then I got pregnant with a third baby. So we had to stay here. And so therefore, while my memory is fresh and my my brain cells are still there from all the sleep deprivation, I will talk about what is easy for me and some tips that I think that might be useful maybe if somebody is planning to have a family in the future, or if you have small children and would like to have some tricks of what you can do to make more peaceful in your parentship. So I'd like to know how many here have children? And how old are your children?
She's 20 months.
20 months.
And I'm pregnant, so.
Oh, congratulations. And
Mine are 13, 10 and 8.
oh, you probably know more than me then. Yeah. And you have 3.
9, 7, 6.
Yeah. So, what I need to say first is explaining what peaceful parenting is. A peaceful parent is a person that listens and sees the child and helps the child with his or her needs. You don't use violence, and you don't use punishments to change the behavior of your children. Instead, you set limits with empathy. Instead of hitting, for instance, you talk about why you shouldn't do that thing or that thing. You argue your case, and you also try to be the example in the ways you can, and you understand that the child is a child and does things for a reason. It's not for being mean or something like that. There's another word for peaceful parenting, and that's attachment parenting. It was coined by William Sears, and the difference between peaceful and attachment to me is that peaceful goes a little bit further. First, we have to know why this way of parenting is not so common, unfortunately, and that's just because we learn in school that you should be in a certain way, and you don't learn how to create a strong family there, because strong family is a threat to the state. There's also the Western norms, the modern norms for raising children is not really peaceful parenting. There's pressure to do things like everyone else. For instance, in Sweden, where I'm from, parents at play meetings, they often let their babies scream in their car seats and don't pick them up. And you say, like, pick up the baby, it's crying. And it's like, no, he will fall asleep. And there's also the gender equality lie. In Sweden, we are taxed a lot. Normal people are taxed over 50%, and then you have 25% taxes of other things. So it's about 75% of your income is taken away. And then they give things back to you, such as generous parent leaves. In Sweden, you get, I think it was 480 days that you can split between the parents, but it's only the first year that is really giving you enough money that you can live, so that parents also have to reserve a certain months for the father, which means that maybe the mother has to stop breastfeeding the baby prematurely, and then you have children in kindergarten from age 1. So most of them start when they're around 12, 14 months at full time, because then the parents have to go back to their work. And if they don't, they lose their sick covers and things like that, so they got economic punishment. And the worst lie of all is that it's normal that babies should cry in our society. You will hear screaming babies in the supermarket and on the streets, and a lot of people think that's normal, but actually children doesn't have to scream like that, and the prolonged crying can actually cause brain damage. So how can we be peaceful in a non-peaceful society? First, we have to accept that we're the odd ones. It's okay to be different. And we have to look at how people in other societies and in previous times raised their children, because you can learn from that. For instance, in many tribal societies in Africa, there's unheard of that small babies cry. And you should also find out the facts. It's good to learn studies about how the stress negatively affects the brain. And also, you should accept that the children didn't choose to be there. You created the child, so therefore you have the responsibility of raising the child properly until he or she doesn't need your help. So I will share what I have learned. I call the first period with a baby the 4th trimester, because a baby is not ready when they come out. A baby's brain size is in such a way so that when the baby would have been ready, its head size would have been much too big for it to come out. So therefore it comes out when it's not ready at all. For instance, other mammals like cows or giraffes, they have babies that can stand up almost straight away. And for a human, the same thing takes about a year. So it means that a baby would have needed to stay in the womb for longer. So in the first time of the life, the 4th trimester, it's good to create a safe environment that is mimicking the environment in the womb. And you can do it in many ways, like sleeping together or carry the baby or be close. So I will share my tricks that I have learned with my 3 babies. And the first thing that makes things really easy and connecting us and removes the crying is co-sleeping. In hospitals all over the world, in the modern societies, it's not encouraged, and they actually don't allow it in some places, saying that it's dangerous. But that's not the case. When it's been dangerous, it's been when a parent has been an alcoholic or something and rolled over the baby. But there's instincts, and you feel when you're sleeping next to your baby, you feel roughly where the baby is, and the baby has a reflex called the Moro reflex, which is does like this if you roll near or something. So you can think, so it's not dangerous at all. And there has been things invented to keep the babies away from you, like cots and cribs, which is traditional since about 200 years and more so since the 50s. There has been the lie about having independent babies. Like good babies should sleep alone, and it's bad to wake often and sleep together. But you have to figure out why do the babies wake up in the night. Well, the reason is because in ancient times, he or she wouldn't survive if she wasn't next to the parent, because you can get eaten and stuff like that. And by feeling the mother or the father, it will sleep much better because you sleep next to each other, and both the parent and the baby will sleep well, and also the baby has a small stomach, so he or she needs feeding often, and help with the toilet needs or stuff like that. My next trick is to help the baby with the toilet needs. This is what we do at home, and we have done it with the 3 of them. The first one we have done it with is 6 weeks old when we find out about this method, and with the other 2 we done it from birth. And we were thinking, because you get the nappies in the hospital and we put them on and we do like people do there, and then we thought, why do you have to have these nappies on? It's like, obviously he doesn't like it because then you get covered in it. And there's actually an instinct that babies don't want to soil themselves. They have the natural instinct of doing arching back with the back like this, or making noises and being uncomfortable. So if you are very attentive and you observe, then you can notice these small signs, and then you can help. Like, nappies are quite a new invention. Through the ancient times, people didn't have that, so they must have done this method. And you can help by making noises. Like here, for instance, I just say, psst, and then it comes, like magic. And if you're not in sync with the baby, you can wear him or her in a sling. Like if I'm not in sync, I would wear him naked inside, and then sometimes you can actually be so connected, so you feel like a fake wet sensation that is not an accident. It's called a phantom wee, which it's almost like magic. Like you feel that the baby needs to go to the toilet, so then you can take him out and hold like that, so he's comfortable. And it can be good to be prepared. Like we don't want too much laundry, so we have either normal plastic nappies or cloth nappies as a backup, and we often put these sheets that you can throw away, or some towels, so we don't have to have too much. And at the moment, catch maybe 80% of it, so it's quite good for both baby being happy and the wallets and the environment. My next trick that is such a easy and convenient way is to wrap the baby. You can carry a baby in many ways, but I find that wearing a long sling is probably the most comfortable. And with tying like this, you get the sensation of a fake womb for the child. So it will be like being back again, and the baby can hear the heartbeats and the noise from inside of the body, just like before. And it's so comfortable and convenient. Like we would never be able to go and see this cool place with cave houses from the 800 centuries. We would never be able to see it if we didn't have a sling like this. So it's really good for transport, it's good for the comfort, it's great for the hips of the baby for developing and holding the head up, and it's great for if the baby has an upset stomach as well. And you can wear it in so many ways. Like in the beginning, I will wear in the front like this, and then swap to the back, maybe at 2 months old. And you can wear on the hips, and you can wear twins, you can wear in so many ways. And it's much cheaper and easier than having a pram. Otherwise, you have to roll around this big thing with a bed and lots of things hanging on it, and go on buses and trams and stuff. That's a real pain. There's many ways of carrying, and with many ways of designs. Like you can use these woven slings like that, and there's jersey slings, which is stretchy and easy to tie from the birth, and there's something called May tie, which is like a square cloth with 4 straps on it. You tie like this and like that, and there's also ergonomic ergonomic carriers and hybrids. You can use that too. And once you start, it's quite hard to not want more. Like with my 2 other children, I had about 20 different carrying things actually. And my next trick is breastfeeding, which is totally natural transfer from baby in the womb, getting the nutrition from the cord, to getting the nutrition still from the mother and continue growing. It's not so common anymore as it was before. I think statistics in the UK is about that 60% doesn't breastfeed, what I heard anyway, doesn't even try. But actually there's only 3% that can't breastfeed for medical reason. And there's many lies from the government saying that you can't feed when you're on medicines and things like that. And I think the reason why they don't promote breastfeeding is because it's kind of anarchy, and it's not encouraged because they can't tax it, because it's from, well, it's from the breast. Also, the government encourages, in a way, to feed for a really short time. In Sweden, they do it so that children should go to kindergarten at 1 year old and be controlled there. But actually, the normal time for feeding is 2 to 7 years. That's the biological time that is natural for a human, and not just 6 months or something like that. Apart from being a very convenient food that you can take with you everywhere and you don't have to heat it up or put in bottles or something, it's customized for the baby, containing exactly everything it needs. And it's medicine. It contains things for the immune defense, and for instance now my little one is having a cold and blocked nose, and you can use it as nose spray, and you can use it as a cream, and on the nipples there's the bifidobacteria. I don't know if you know it, but that's how they get inside of the intestine system, and that's how there's oligosaccharides in the breast milk that get eaten up by the bifidobacteria, and this is what helps the stomach to work properly and to digest the food. Another thing that's great is it's like a sleeping pill. So if you're feeding at night, both of the mother and baby might fall asleep. And there's the DHA acid, I think it's called, in milk, which is proven to give a higher IQ. You're bonding, and there's many benefits for the mom, such as if you breastfeed for a certain amount of time, there's less chance of having cervical and breast cancer. In Sweden, people give their kids to the kindergartens at age 1, and I have tried it too, because I was one of those that didn't think of it so much. So when I turned up with my 1-year-old to kindergarten, and I was going to leave him, he didn't want to be left, of course. And the teacher says, "Don't worry, he'll stop crying after a while." And I just couldn't leave my child, but I noticed the other parents, they leave their children crying and screaming. And I have been thinking of that for a long time, because I wanted to have the normal freedoms initially that you have when you give your child away, but it doesn't. I don't want to have this stress either from a child crying. So I was reading up on it, and that's a bit how I got into peaceful parenting also. So we just stopped it, and then we tried again when he was 2, and it was okay for a while, but then we took him back. And when I've been reading up on it, it's actually brain damaging to cry for extended times. So I don't think a child should be left in a kindergarten too young. Also, there's no need because they actually don't play together with other children until they're like 3 anyway. And this is also one of the natural instincts, that not being separated from the parent, because otherwise the child in ancient time wouldn't survive either. And my last trick is to give the tools for a successful life. And there's many things you can do, like the other tricks. And I think the main thing is to learn through arguing what's right and wrong, to have arguments and be able to discuss things and to have time to talk about how things work and how to find information out. Then you will be doing kind of unschooling, and you don't need the school actually. If you force learning, then child will not have the joy of wanting to learn things. But by talking about things, then you don't kill the curiosity. Here are some pictures of things we do, like I have a world schooling group here in Prague called Prague World Schooling. And here in the bottom picture, we were 16 children and a baby and some parents going out in the forest learning about mushrooms. We even picked a poisonous one, and we cut them, and we learn about the mycelium and stuff like that. And my son on the picture above is climbing here. He got a real passion for climbing since we had friends from Sweden visiting here. They're professional climbers, and they took him once. Now he loves it, so he gets to go maybe twice a week, and he has lessons as well. This is one thing of with doing the unschooling, that you get really passionate about things, and you get if you get interested, you should help to provide the things that the child is interested in, and then he or she can become an expert at something. Apart from talking a lot about things, I think it's really important to teach the things that school doesn't teach, like actually teaching economics and how the world works. And that way they will learn everything, like how inflation is working and politics and things like that. And also it's so if possible, avoid the government indoctrination, which basically teaches you to be a tax slave, and find people with similar values and reject those that are too statist. This was all that I had to say right now, and if you have any questions or want to discuss something, go ahead.